as much as people may have been abhorred by Donald Trump's statement weeks ago, talking about how black folks, he's hearing that black folks find him relatable because what he's going through is similar to what black Americans have gone through. He wasn't lying. He was telling the truth. Quite a few folks were put off, if not flat out offended, after my words were interpreted as associating support for Trump from the black community with all the legal issues he's facing. For that, I sincerely apologize.
Stephen A. Smith is a political, he's not a political commentator. He's in trouble for commenting on politics. He's a sports commentator on ESPN. He's got a show, he's got podcasts, he comes on shows all the time as an analyst for sports. I used to play college ball. Now he comments on all sports. He's entertaining. And he's also controversial. And since he started his podcast, well, he has dabbled in politics here and there. We've featured a couple of his monologues recently, especially the last one where he reminded Democrats that by throwing all of this stuff at Donald Trump, trying to drag him into the court system and trying to defeat him that way, they're proving that they can't beat him at the ballot box. They can't beat him on election day. So they're trying to get him this way, right? Well, apparently his political commentary has caught up to him, and he has been forced to apologize. I want you to watch this because this is very well scripted, very well crafted by his PR people, maybe by his attorneys, maybe even by the parent company of ESPN, Disney, because we know how woke that team is. The style of this apology that he does on his video podcast has the feel of a hostage video. Watch his apology, and then we'll talk about what he's really apologizing for. But here's the apology from yesterday.
I wanted to touch on something that I made news about just a few days ago. Let me say this, ladies and gentlemen. Accountability is where everything needs to begin in this world. It's something I say quite often. I certainly never hesitate to hold folks accountable when mistakes or mishaps occur. So I'm certainly not about to run from it myself. I'm fully aware that I've been in the news over the last few days, paraded all over social media as well, after comments I made during my appearance on Fox News' Hannity last week with the one and only Sean Hannity himself. And I'm fully aware of the outcry that has ensued because of it. A lot of folks in Black America seem pretty pissed at me right now, from friends and loved ones to colleagues, contemporaries, and dare I say, even the NAACP itself. Quite a few folks were put off, if not flat out offended, after my words were interpreted as associating support for Trump from the black community with all the legal issues he's facing. For that, I sincerely apologize. To be clear, my words were misconstrued. I'm stating right here for the record that my words were taken out of context, misrepresenting and depicting me in a way I found every bit as insulting and disrespectful as folks in Black America evidently felt about what they thought I said. But I'll own it anyway. Because please know that I know the buck stops with me. I'm in the communication business. I've been here for 30 years. So regardless of whatever interpretation that accompanies any words coming out of my mouth, the responsibility ultimately lies with me first and foremost before anybody else. I've always felt that way. I still do. I always will. Period. Blacks who refuse to support Trump are aware of his history of issues. And we'll never forget how Trump claimed Obama, the nation's first black president, wasn't even qualified to hold office because he was born in Kenya, although Trump recanted the statement during his 2016 campaign run for the presidency. Yet Trump's dissenters were not the topic of discussion when I was talking to Hannity. The support he appears to be receiving in the polls was what was being discussed. 5 polls, count them, 5. Emerson, NBC News, Daily Kos, New York Times, and Rasmussen, all big national polls had Trump leading over the last few weeks. Plus, according to 538, recent local polls also put Trump ahead in battleground states. He's up 6 points in Michigan, Arizona, and Georgia each. Insofar as Trump gaining support in the black community, well, how about various publications with these headlines. The Chicago Tribune. This time, Trump really does seem to be making black voter inroads. Why? The Washington Post. Voters of color are shifting right. Are Democrats doomed? How about the New York Times? As black voters drift to Trump, Biden's allies say they have work to do. Axios wrote, Big Biden bummer. New York Times Siena poll shows gaps with key demographic groups. Wall Street Journal. Biden loses support among black men. The Hill. Biden losing support among black voters in swing states. Survey. Al Jazeera. Why are black voters backing Donald Trump in record numbers? And CBS News. Black voter support for Trump up from 4% to 23% poll finds. Why did I say all of that? Because I want to show you I didn't just open my mouth. I read, I listened, and I've seen a momentum shift, as we all have. Anywhere I appear, no matter my subjectivity relating to what I feel, is still going to be based on facts being presented into the stratosphere. That is who I've always been. It is what I will always continue to be. But it's never exercised with malice in my heart and soul. Certainly never to insult or harm the black community, my community. My thoughts are put out there to present views I believe are pertinent, that alerts us to what's going on, what missteps may be taking place, and how, if at all, they could be corrected. I hope everyone can understand and appreciate my intent, if nothing else, as we march forward right here with the Stephen A. Smith Show. But just because my intent was harmless doesn't mean my words were harmless, and I know that. I can always do better, and I'll strive to do just that every single day that I'm alive.
You see what I mean? Hostage video. And he never really said exactly what he said. I'm going to show you what he said. But a couple of things here, Stephen Smith, and if you don't mind, I know the things I'm about to say because I have watched and listened to you over the years. When you say, I would never have wanted to say something that would have harmed the black community, well, understand something. The black community doesn't all think the same thing. The black community doesn't all react the same way to what you said. The black community doesn't all behave the same way. In fact, when someone stands up and say black people all think and behave and feel and react like this, that's the guy who's a racist, because he's judging an entire group of people based on the color of their skin instead of respecting each and every individual within that group enough to know that they have their own brains and they can make their own decisions and they can have their own reactions and their own opinions because they are each individual creations of God. I know that because Stephen A. Smith has tried to speak that message. Don't be lumping us all in. We're all individuals. I am a man. And I have my opinions. But now here he is buying into it. And did you catch the secret little interior message there? The NAACP. Now, just so you know, the NAACP, or representatives from the NAACP, they don't pick up the phone and call Stephen A. Smith and say, yo, dude, you shouldn't have said that. We want you to apologize. That's not how it works. That's not how the NAACP rolls. No. They operate at a much higher level. Someone at the NAACP called the CEO of Disney and said, fix this, because you surely don't want the NAACP speaking out about how racist ESPN, ABC television, and Disney is. That's why you just saw that hostage video. I promise you. Because here's the thing about Stephen A. Smith. He was hired by ESPN. He continues to work for ESPN, and he gets paid plenty of money from ESPN to do exactly what he's been doing, which is provide his opinion as provocative as possible. They know what they bought when they hired him. They bought his opinions, controversial or not. He mixes things up. He ticks people off. But if you took off the wrong people, then you got to do the hostage video apology. So, what exactly did he say that he claims was mischaracterized, misconstrued, and taken out of context? Well, let's watch it. It was on Fox News Channel's Hannity, which, by the way, I think is part of the problem here. They're punishing him for going on Hannity and on Fox News. We don't talk to those people, right? But even more so, just so you understand how these things work, Stephen A. Smith and his people didn't reach out and beg Hannity to put him on the show. Here's what happened. All those polls that Stephen A. Smith just showed you, it's building a very real narrative right now in this country that Joe Biden is having major problems with black men in the polling. And against all conventional wisdom, these black men are actually supporting Donald Trump, who we all know is a Klansman and is a racist and hates black people. I mean, everybody knows that. It's just a given. But suddenly when you see he's making strides with black men in the polls, it's like, wait a minute. Do those black men not care that he's racist? Are they all self-hating black men? Are those black men racist too? And they're just trying to act white? Or maybe, no, this couldn't possibly be it. Maybe Donald Trump isn't actually racist. That's the media narrative right now. And Sean Hannity, wanting to shine a light on this story, says, who's a good guest to have that can talk about this? Stephen A. Smith is a great guest to talk about this. Stephen A. Smith, why is this happening? Tell us. And here's what Stephen A. Smith said.
And dare I say something that will probably be termed the most uncomfortable thing that I've ever had to articulate out of my mouth from a political perspective. But I got to tell you something. As much as people may have been abhorred by Donald Trump's statement weeks ago, talking about how black folks, he's hearing that black folks find him relatable because what he's going through is similar to what black Americans have gone through. He wasn't lying. He was telling the truth. When you see the law enforcement, the court system, and everything else being exercised against him, it is something that black folks throughout this nation can relate to with some of our historic, iconic figures. We've seen that happen throughout society. So no matter what race, what ethnicity you may emanate from, we relate to you when you're suffering like that because we know we have. And that's what he articulated. As unpopular as it was, as much as we didn't like to hear it, it's the truth, and there's no way around it. Those are all contributing factors to the state of affairs with the slippage that appears to be taking fold when it comes to President Biden, unfortunately.
Where's the lie? What, to paraphrase my friend Andrew Breitbart, apologize for what? What are you apologizing for exactly? You gave your opinion, you gave analysis that, by the way, I think a lot of people would nod along with and say, yeah, that makes sense. You know, it's funny where we have riots and arson and marches and protests from Black Lives Matter who say that we have a systemically broken justice system that is stacked against what they believe to be a certain group of people. And now you've got a person who's saying, we've got a broken justice system that's stacked up against me. You're not allowed to connect those dots. When Donald Trump, when it is finally revealed and discovered that, yes, you're damn right, the FBI spied on Donald Trump and tried to gather dirt on him to harm him, are you not allowed to stop for a moment and say, wow, the FBI did the same thing to Martin Luther King Jr.? I'm not saying Donald Trump is Martin Luther King, but are you not saying that there's a correlation there? And then maybe people can stop and say, wow, this is serious. And there is a connection there, and maybe this does make Donald Trump seem a little more relatable. Maybe even make him look like a victim of abuse at the highest levels of our government. So why did Stephen A. Smith apologize? What did he say that was so objectionable that he had to apologize for? Well, you just saw it. And it happens a lot in our business when your job is to give your opinion and to speak honestly about what's going on in the world right now. Especially, it's funny, you know, I work in the world of commentary, political and social and cultural commentary. I work for Town Hall, as you see right now. and I work for a radio station owned by a big media company where I do my daily radio show in Washington, D.C. And oftentimes, we radio hosts or we streamers and video commentators, we sometimes get ourselves into trouble. People write articles. I can't believe this guy said that. I can't believe that guy said that. And it's inevitable. You have a meeting with the corporate suits and they said, oh, gosh, why did you say that? And I've had to have that meeting. And you know what I say? I say, you hire us to do this. You know exactly who I am. You know who I was when you hired me. You've known who I've been the entire time I've worked for you. And I provide my opinion in an entertaining, intelligent, and provocative way, if I may say so myself. And not everyone agrees with it. It actually helps create debate in this country. Healthy, informed, and vital debate. And when you're debating, it means there's going to be people who are opposed to you. And so they will try to harm you and damage you and silence you and deplatform you. Because if you've got facts on your side, then all they can do is try to shut you up. And so you say to the corporate suits, as Stephen Smith should have said to Disney and ESPN, I did what you pay me to do. I'm sorry, you can't hire someone like me with my personality and my ability to do what I do and not sometimes have to take some heat for it. That's part of the package. So I go back to my rhetorical question that I actually have an answer for. What exactly did Stephen A. Smith say? What did he do that he had to apologize for? And by my viewing of this, and I think yours as well, Stephen A. Smith apologized for telling the truth.